Good afternoon, everyone. Cindy's here. I'm back. I'm going to be giving you a video this evening that I recorded with Josh Abrams of Accountability for All. And we collaborated on this video. He's really helpful. Big shout out to Josh for helping me out to get this information out. We did an interview style chat this afternoon, and it's a really difficult video to do. The information it's sickening, but I feel it's really important to get this information out to the public. It's a really important public need that you know about what's been transpiring. Basically, this video is regarding Chaz Sexton-Diranian, our chair of our Board of Selectmen. And I want to add before I transfer into the main video, when I go around town and I've met up with a number of people, there's been some people that tell me that they show my videos with their kids present. They bring their kids in to trying to show them some civics. Usually my videos are pretty kid friendly. I try to keep it that way, especially learning that parents are bringing their kids in probably before the parents have seen the video. I just want to advise parents that if you're going to do that, hold off, watch the video first. It's pretty sensitive information and might not be overly kid-friendly on your first pass. It's up to you to decide whether you want your kids to watch this video or not. So this is for grown-ups. But I want to tell everybody that I'm really sad that I have to do this video, but it just makes me sick. And I'm sorry that this is happening in Townsend, but it is, or it has happened, or it is happening. I don't know what to tell you, but you're going to have to watch this interview that Josh and I did today. And it's really important. And you may remember Josh he ran for selectman against Chaz last spring. And right now, I don't know what to say, but you're going to have to watch the rest of this video. Okay, that's all. So I will catch you on the other side. Thanks for listening.
And per the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Department of Public Health, Bureau of Substance and Addiction Services, is this something you want from your public official? Diranian is an immediate and serious threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. This is per the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This is literally per their investigation. Your selectman, your chair of the select board, Chaz Duranian, and I quote, is an immediate and serious threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. So
the facility submitted their internal investigation incident report with the required notification to the department. The facility's internal investigation corroborated multiple reports by residents and staff of inappropriate sexual behavior, sexual harassment, abuse, bullying, and intimidation by respondent, who is Chaz.
Imagine being this person with nothing, nobody. They've been fighting, asking for help, and finally they decided they were not going to give in to their addiction because their addiction didn't define them. And then in their most vulnerable hour, this person whose job, the same job as he holds here to protect and defend this community, was to protect, defend, and counsel this patient. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised after this video releases on either of our channels if law enforcement is not going to take interest in this and start investigating.
Yeah.
But it's bad in his face that he's doing this to someone in his professional capacity, in his day job. He intermingles his day job and his city job. Resident A reported that Chaz transported him in Chaz's personal vehicle to City Hall to help with program expansion due to resident A having an engineering degree. The same resident indicated that Chaz gave him the option to perform sexual acts of touching or get kicked off the program. Staff reported that they observed resident A's behavior change after the trip to City Hall with respondent. A case manager reported that Chaz stated that, "I need you to help me find dirt on resident A to get him out of here." So now Chaz is going after resident B and trying to set resident B up to go after resident A, because resident B might just turn up to be the same as resident A.
He went to his staff, the people that worked for him.
Yeah.
So he coerced his staff for fear of their job to now use more power and control
To try and cover it up.
to get rid of resident A. And resident A, he's one of the reporters. He may be the first resident.
According to resident B, upon learning the location of resident B's bed in an adjacent sober house, Chaz stated, "Good, now I can snuggle up with you." Staff reported being uncomfortable with Chaz putting his arm around them and rubbing their arm. So the staff is observing this behavior and they're speaking out.
Yep.
This is multiple staff. Multiple staff and residents reported that Chaz referred to them as sexy and handsome, and staff and residents reported feeling uncomfortable. Staff reported that Chaz made comments indicating he needed assistance going to the bathroom. Staff indicated this made them feel weird and disgusting. Staff reported observing respondent sitting too close to a resident on the couch and that the resident appeared uncomfortable. We want to talk about staff, right? Staff reported that Chaz indicated that he could see their emails and chastised staff for speaking to the facilities director of residential services and chief operating officer about his behavior. So now the staff is seeing what Chaz is doing. They're watching the behavior continue and worsen, and now they're speaking up. And Chaz is telling them, "I can read all your emails, and if you tell anybody how I've been abusing these poor people, then I'm coming after you." In his job outside of the town, he's now bringing in to town business. Staff reported that when they asked Chaz if they should give the fire department a tour of the facility during an upcoming visit, Chaz's response was, "No, I'll do it, and we'll start in the boiler room, where I keep my Vaseline." Staff perceived this comment as sexually inappropriate. On October 2023, multiple staff confirmed that Chaz ordered them to strip search a client due to a suspicion of possession of drugs. Staff reported not thinking the strip search was right, but failed to report the incident due to fear of retaliation. The facility reported that based on the significant number of corroborated allegations and inappropriate sexual behavior, and after reviewing the response given by Chaz, the decision was made to terminate Chaz as program director of that facility. Cindy is a former select board member in Townsend, Massachusetts, the same town where I ran for select board. And the person I ran against, Chaz Sexton-Diranian. He cheated his way to victory. In fact, we were able to prove that he violated local and state election laws. He was even reported to the state election board.
All right, so a gentleman was supposed to come and measure for us. He was supposed to do it yesterday. He brought the tape, but he didn't have time. And he was supposed to come this afternoon, and Kathy said she hasn't seen him yet.
Perfect. And so what is can I get a copy of his state certification as a licensed and registered engineer certified through the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
I'm not sure if he has that, but I will ask. Hold on.
What does he do? Does he work for the town?
No, he doesn't work for the town.
But a person that doesn't even work for the town, that has probably no license or credentials, is just going to show up with a tape measure and see how it looks. Let me ask you another question. Is that the same gentleman that was passing out stickers asking for him to be voted for conservation?
Not conservation, Board of Health.
Board of Health.
Yes.
So it's the same guy that was.
I believe so. Yes.
That was also soliciting votes at the door when I walked in.
Was he soliciting votes at the door?
Well, it's on the video. Did he get voted? And he stole that election. Do you think it should be reversed as a taxpayer?
Yeah, I definitely think we should maybe even rehold the election if.
The sign was moved.
Oh, geez.
But when I'm saying I'm running for council, for select board, because these problems exist, and then all of a sudden you got a guy removing, what was it called?
There's always a red pole marker sign. It's like it looks like a campaign sign, just two little things to stick in the ground.
So where it was is not there anymore, and then he set up shop where he wanted.
Yeah, that's concerning because I know for a fact she puts them out.
And I can tell you, and it can't be said that it's something that was removed afterwards, because I show you a live video first thing in the morning at 10 a.m. from that day. 50 yards would have been right here, okay? So I'm going to walk 50 yards. Now I'm going to be right in the middle of the street, which is not a safe place to go. So are we saying, Jess, that if this is the pole marker, like we said before, and it goes to the curtilage, that anything this side of me would not fall in that footage and would violate those laws? And then the guy that was running against me is way up there. So from what you're looking at now, it doesn't look good, does it?
Not from my perspective.
There were a lot of people that had reached out to me and said things need to be the way that they were. And I had an issue that happened to my kid, and I decided that I wanted to help and see if I could put things back, sit in my position for 3 years, allow some more people to see that it's possible and not be scared about running, because that was the big thing. People were scared about going up against the machine and the fallback and the retaliation for going against the machine. But then people will see that it's okay to do it.
People don't like change.
People don't like change, but
change is hard.
When you cheat and you steal, that's the whole, you're not helping yourself.
That's pretty serious.
You're proving the whole reason why I ran. Cindy was aware who I was, but I wasn't aware of her or the insane information that she dug up on this crooked politician. In fact, once she got this information, she showed up to select board meetings and started filming, only to be threatened by Chaz and other selectman Joe Shank.
Of all people, you should know about someone being shanked. Of all people, you should know about someone being shanked.
And that wasn't Selectman Joe Shank's first time in the spotlight acting unprofessional and crazy. This is how he behaved with me.
Sir, you're very unprofessional.
Huh?
You're very unprofessional. If you want to be, stick your camera up your
So I'm unprofessional, but you have one selectman backing another selectman, because he wanted to tell me I wasn't professional. He wanted to cuss me out too, right? But it's okay for him to do it, not for me to do it. Now, Chair of the Select Board, Chaz Sexton-Diranian, has been so disgusting, unprofessional, and downright deplorable that the state took his license and said that he was a danger to public safety and welfare. But take a look what he has to say to Cindy for simply recording him.
And I can say that it is absolutely deplorable as a former selectman that you are putting things on to go against the town.
Now, I find it interesting that Chaz Sexton-Diranian would find it deplorable that she is calling him out because it goes against the town. What goes against the town, Chaz, is your defiance of the public trust. Abusing people at your day job where you're supposed to counsel the most vulnerable members of society. Bringing them to City Hall and demanding that they perform certain acts on you. And if they don't, they'll be without a place to live. And any staff member at his private job or public staff member at City Hall speaks out against him, well, they're going to get the axe. Cindy notices that Chaz's LinkedIn page is gone. And that's weird for a guy that loves to brag about himself to get rid of all of his bragging rights. So she did a records request. Make sure to check out Cindy. Her YouTube channel name is The Real Deal Around Town. R-E-E-L. The Real Deal Around Town. Tell her AFA sent you. Let's jump into this one. Hey everybody. And as you can see, I'm in a public easement right now. But behind me is the home of Select Board Chair Chaz Sexton-Diranian. Now, I ran against him in a recent election, and we were able to prove that he cheated his way to victory. In fact, the State Elections Committee actually investigated it. But that's not why we're here today. We're here today because the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has said that Diranian is an immediate and serious threat to public health, safety, or welfare. That's because as a program director in his private capacity, he violated people's trust and abused the very folks that he was supposed to counsel. The things he did were incredible, and they were so disgusting that the state wound up terminating his license, and the company he worked for fired him. And he's been hiding it from the town for months. And he connected his personal business with the town when he started abusing the very people he was supposed to help when he brought them to town to work in exchange for performing certain acts. This house and property may seem quite unassuming. In fact, on its outside, it would give you no inclination to the monster that lurks inside. The monster that is Townsend Select Board Chair Chaz Sexton-Diranian.
I said, I'm sorry. And I walked over there, I said, I'm sorry. I mean, they know about this. And I said, I'm sorry. And Jessica's like, why are you saying you're sorry? Because I never do that. I said, you know I love you guys, right? I said, yeah. What are you doing? It's like, I haven't done it yet. But I said, I'm doing a video with Josh Abrams. Oh, shit. Because they're always crying about the phone calls.
Right.
So we want to make sure that that they don't call her.
Yeah.
If they're going to, I'm not asking anybody to call anybody. It's your department. But if they're going to call, it's the selectman's office is 1703.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. And I gotta tell you that I spend 95% of my time traveling across this beautiful nation, uncovering stories of corruption. And you know what they say, when the cat's away, the mice will play. And I spent so much time away from my home, I didn't quite realize what was going on at my home. And then I started doing some digging and I realized that I wasn't the only one with a shovel. There are many people in town that were lining up to do what they've been doing for months and in some cases even years, outing a very corrupt society and a very corrupt political machine that seemed to have pretty well insulated themselves. Now, as you know, I wound up running for office and the person that I ran against actually violated local and state election laws to the point where it was actually reported and investigated by the state's election committee. Which brings us to today's video, because this video has everything and very much to do with Chaz Sexton-Diranian, who's actually the chair of the select board, the person I ran against, the person that some of you may have voted for. And I have a packet of paper here that I'm sure none of you have. And I'm joined by a very special guest today. And I would strive to say that when we talk about journalism, it's real easy to call me a journalist. And I am. I'm very well accomplished. I've created a lot of change. I'm very well known. But we don't think about the person that gets this information to the surface, the person that makes sure that this information comes to light, so the people that are kept in the dark have an idea of what's going on in their very own backyard. So thank you for joining me today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cindy.
Hi.
So you have, well, first of all, you have a great deal of connection to this town.
Yes, I've lived here for 42 and a half years.
42, so clearly you care about what happens in this town. I think you said to me on the phone, I love this town, but I hate this town. It can drive me
That's
nuts.
a good, yes. I hate it, but I care about it. I care about the people, and I care about transparency and that the truth is out there for everybody.
And you were actually fairly involved. I mean, at one point you were within the local government. When you left the select board, you've been an ardent supporter of the people to make sure that they're defended through their government.
Yes, I know what goes on in town hall, so I know where to look.
Would you call yourself an activist?
Maybe a little bit. I'm mostly, I just want to I'm just interested in transparency. I know that a lot of people from day to day don't know half of what's going on. They don't know what services are available. They don't know what's going on at town hall. And I've started my YouTube channel kind of on the cuff. I mean, just quickly, because I noticed that the select board wasn't recording all the meetings, and when big issues were coming up, particularly around the last town meeting and the budget, and I literally jumped out of my house, put my shoes on, grabbed my phone, and started recording, and my channel was born. And
the name of that channel for the folks
it's
at home?
let's see, Real Deal Around Town.
And the link's in the description also.
Yes, Real, REEL, Deal Around Town.
Now, would you call yourself an investigative reporter?
I've started calling myself, it's kind of weird for me it's new language for me, but because of what I'm doing is basic First Amendment stuff, I've started calling myself an independent journalist.
I would call yourself a hell of an investigative reporter. Folks, this young lady, it takes a lot to either enter government voluntarily or to be swayed into it. I've done a lot of digging and background to everyone this whole past year, and I think they did something similar to Cindy. They thought they'd kind of bring her in as a puppet to do what they wanted, and she was never about the agenda or the machine. So they chose the wrong target. And she started fighting for the people and fighting for the issues at hand, and she's still doing it now as a citizen, as an activist, as an investigative reporter. And I always think it's important that you know what's going on in your neck of the woods. So I was given Cindy's information by a mutual contact, a person that I've come to know and trust, another person that's really a fighter for Townsend. They don't care about, because people, they want their name in lights, they're fighting to get on camera. I had to talk her into it. I'm like, just come on and tell people what happened. So I get her information, I reach out to her, and she starts spinning me this tale, and I said, you know what, in all my investigative reporting and digging, I didn't find any of this. It's a testament to how wonderful and driven this young woman is and how a community can be when they care about the people first. So what is it that I have in our hands right now?
This is a document that really basically makes me ill. When I got it, I was shocked. It was a public record, and when I asked for it, I knew what the worst case scenario could be. When I got it, it proved to be the worst case scenario. And what this is a public record request that I did with the Department of Public Health on the licensed alcohol and drug counselor license of Chaz Sexton-Diranian.
And he is the
chair.
Select member. And you know what? You should explain to people, folks, the brilliance. I don't just have a document in my hand. Explain, before we get into what's inside, from the LinkedIn stuff, explain to how you got to this.
It was really just initially just basic curiosity that I really didn't think much of. Chaz is in his fourth year as a member of the Board of Selectmen. He's been on a number of boards, housing. I've known him for several years. And, I checked his LinkedIn page a few years back, and I noticed that he changes jobs a lot. It's like a year and a half, 2 years, he's got a new job. And so I had downloaded a couple of times his LinkedIn page. And I kind of just like a joke inside my own head that, he can't hold a job. And so periodically, he'll mention his work when he's on his boards, and I'll say, he's got another job, let me check. and I'll check, and I just kind of, it's just a joke within myself, and then I noticed, and other people I know noticed, that Chaz was hanging around Town Hall a lot, because he had this job, and he was a program director, and so he was very busy, and he wasn't initially around a lot, and he was very busy with his job, and then all of a sudden he's around Town Hall. So I'm like, that's not right. And I talked to some other people, and they brought it up without me bringing it up, that Chaz is in Town Hall all the time now. And I'm like, he must have a different job. Oh yeah, he told people that he retired, and I'm like, well, that's weird. So
kind of young for retirement.
So I went right to LinkedIn. Page not found.
Oof.
That's a red flag, because Chaz is the kind of guy who, what he does is really important to him. And I say, that's not right. And people don't usually do that. It's not zero people, but most people don't take their LinkedIn page down. Sometimes it's up there and it's ancient history and out of date, or it's just got stupid stuff on it, but they just don't delete it. And I thought I said, this is not Chaz. Chaz doesn't do this.
For a guy that really likes to brag, where is his list of accomplishments?
What is this? There's nothing here. He doesn't even have that he's on a board of selectmen, nothing. So I said, okay. And I knew what he did for a living. I knew he had a master's in counseling, and he was a licensed alcohol and drug counselor. And I said, okay, why would he do this? And he's hanging around, unemployed. He's only 64 years old, so retirement's kind of weird. And I said, okay, let me check his license. Like, and I didn't expect anything. I thought
Shot in the dark.
I just said, whatever. So, and Massachusetts changed all the licensing websites. So I'm like, oh, here we go. It took a bit to get to the right department. So I got to the Department of Public Health, Bureau of Substance Abuse Services, checked his license. Underneath it said disciplinary action, something or other. And I'm like, uh-oh.
So, which leads us to here, and folks, we're going to delve a little bit into this, but there's something that I want to point out to you at home. I think public trust is extremely important. And per the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Department of Public Health, Bureau of Substance and Addiction Services, is this something you want from your public official? Diranian is an immediate and serious threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. Now let that sink in. This is per the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This is literally per their investigation. Now, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is saying to have contact with anybody, to have a license through the state of Massachusetts, that your selectman, your chair of the select board, Chaz Duranian, and I quote, is an immediate and serious threat to the public health, safety, or welfare. So Cindy, I ask you this, before we start getting into more of what's in here, if the state of Massachusetts is already saying that he's a serious threat to the public health, safety, or welfare, should he even be sitting in town hall presiding over the will of the people?
I think it brings, and the rest of this report too, it brings a lot of questions into his can we trust him? His judgment is, this document proves that he has very poor judgment, and he just can't be trusted and to be unsafe, and this whole thing makes me ill, that this is who our chair of the Board of Selectmen is. And I mean, it's shocking, and I'm speechless. It's really hard to.
It certainly lacks a lot in desirability. I think when we start reading into something like this, it's very important. Now, Mr. Duranian he was a substance abuse counselor for Catholic Charities. And folks, I hold that organization very close to my own heart. As most of you know, because my life is looking through the glass for my subscribers, I was adopted, and I was actually adopted through Catholic Charities. They made sure to get me into a wonderful home with people that gave me a life I could only dream of. In fact, I am where I am, with the life I have, and sitting down for this interview with Cindy because of the work in Catholic Charities. In fact, whenever I travel to another state and I drive by a Catholic Charities, I still stop and take a picture of the sign and send it to my mother. When you're an addiction counselor and people are supposed to help you, you're of the most vulnerable of society. When we talk about politicians or being in elected office, we think that they're supposed to be the champions of the working class and of the wealthier class, and in a sense they are, but politicians and people elected to office are supposed to protect the most vulnerable members of society. People in recovery, people in addiction, victims, people that are standing up and finally saying against all odds, with the amount of courage it takes to finally stand up and then say, I need help. And for the very person that was supposed to help them to victimize them and to do what he did, that to me is a very tough pill to swallow. And I can see you as you're reading through this hits home. This is hard for you.
It is. He just harmed these people. He was there to help them, and he harmed them, and it it's hard to imagine that, I mean, these poor men they're victimized, and they may be harmed for the rest of their life because of what happened to them in this program. They may not trust counselors, they may not trust services. Hopefully these men are okay, that they stayed in this program or got into another one if they left this one. He threatened to expulse some of these people, and if he actually did, I mean, I hope they got treatment somewhere else, but people who are addicted and go into a program like this, they don't have much anywhere to go. And
they're at their lowest point. They have no
they're
defenses.
Very vulnerable. They're very vulnerable, and they're there because they need help, and they may have difficulties throughout their life, and they may need help again. And they're a voice too. I mean, Catholic Charities is a victim as well. That how can people trust treatment providers when they went through what Chaz put them through?
And that's an excellent resume too. Like when you have the ability to sit down and say, listen, I'm an addiction counselor, I'm an elected official in Townsend, and folks, I'm not dragging Townsend into this. When we go through this, he dragged Townsend into this. He literally brought some of these victims to our city hall. And look, the ripple effect. Like, you go to this person and then this happens to you. You're violated, your trust is violated, you feel violated. Maybe your recovery ends. Maybe the next time that you decide to use drugs and engage in drug activity, maybe that's the last time you do anything in this life. Maybe your distrust in the system at that time is so heightened that you never seek recovery again. And there's an unnamed person in this report. And despite my investigation, that person will never be named on this channel. Somebody stepped up. Somebody had the bravery to step up and share what happened to them. And since this has happened, it's like Chaz has kind of gone about his life like, oh well, who cares?
Yeah, he's gone on with his role in the Board of Selectmen. And I think one thing that's important to express too with this is that this is his actions with the clients and the staff at this program is about power and control. He threatened his victims not to report him. He threatened staff not to report him, or he would take action against them. And he was in a position, he was a program director, and people would believe that he had that power and control. And here in Townsend, as the chair of the Board of Selectmen, again, it's about power and control. He has a lot of power and control, and he has, some of my videos even show him threatening people or warning them not to even speak to other people. I mean,
what would happen if a lot of people that are in these sober houses come out of jail? They're on parole. So if an instance was to arise where Mr. Duranian engaged in this behavior, the person who he was supposed to be counseling said, I don't want any part of this. Chaz could say, well, if you want to stay in good standing with parole and you want to stay free, then maybe you should. That's an awful lot of power to wield.
Yeah, they can't leave the program. If they're on probation or parole, they can't leave this program. They have to stay. So they have to take whatever Chaz is dishing out.
And who's going to believe the lowly junkie over the addiction counselor, chairman of the select board?
And I think, and it wasn't just one person at this program who reported him. It clearly in this report, it shows that multiple people, there were multiple victims who aren't named that were residents in this program, his clients, and staff members who also complained. And I think there was a lot of courage with those men, because when the report started going in, and I'm assuming some of this, that they probably didn't know the other ones were reporting it, and it wasn't until there were. You
think they're all kind of going in separately, and eventually?
Yeah, I don't know that
people put the pieces together.
Possibly the staff, if there were multiple staff members. I think there were a couple incidents in here where there were multiple staff members when he was saying some of his things. So they may have talked to each other and said, we got to report this. I don't know. I'm making assumptions on that, but clearly in this report, there's somewhere in here is his termination, when he was terminated from his employment back in March, and this is all pretty recent. All of
This
this.
is right around the time of the
This is
election.
less than 6 months ago that all of this even started. Well, I guess the report started coming in like last October, in here somewhere it says that. And, maybe one report, but then it started to pile up. But he was terminated from his job on March 6th. And the Department of Public Health acted quickly. They suspended his license in April and revoked it in May. So they were very
She's
quickly.
speaking
And
truth.
this is a public record. This is, really
Disciplinary
serious.
action ID 161, respectively 141, and it's showing exactly what she said here today, is that he was suspended on April 2nd, 2024, license revoked on May 8th, 2024, and then we start to go into this notice here. Notice of agency action, summary suspension, and proposed revocation. For the reasons set forth in the attached notice of agency action, the Department of Public Health, the Department, pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 111J, subsection 6, and 105 CMR 168.019-168.020, immediately summarily suspends your license as an alcohol and drug counselor. As provided in 105 CMR, this action is subject to the adjudicatory provisions of MGL, Chapter 30A, and will be governed by the standard I can't even speak today. Adjudicatory, I can't. Adjudicatory.
There you go.
Practice and procedure. Pursuant to 105 CMR, you may request an adjudicatory hearing on the proposed revocation by filing a hearing within 30 days. So this is letting him know that, hey, and to be a fly on the wall when he got this and he read this, I mean, he must have been in complete shock, because when you get in that type of position and you prey on people and you exert power, you get this kind of unchallenged effect where you think the chips will never fall. I'm so smart, I'm so advanced in my predatory behavior, I'm good. So to get this, I assume he was less upset about what he did to those poor people and more upset that the ruse fell through.
Yeah, this is really serious in this basis, because, I mean, he did this at the wrong place, because the program is funded by the Department of Public Health. It receives funding, probably not completely funded. Catholic Charities receives donations, but it's funded. They receive a lot of support, and financial and otherwise, from the Department of Public Health. And when you work for even a private organization that's funded that way, that program has to answer to the state and follow certain regulations. And one of them is if there's any adverse events that happen in your program. It could be, a resident or a client trips on the stairs and injures themselves. It's a substance abuse program. If they have somebody overdose, if somebody goes out of the program and gets hurt, if somebody gets arrested, if a staff member were to assault a resident, that happens. We hear that. These are things we do hear on the news. And when we hear these things, it's because these facilities must report that to the Department of Public Health. So when Catholic Charities did their investigation, they had to immediately report this to the Department of Public Health, which this report states actually that
Good on them for reporting
that's
it.
what started the ball rolling. I mean, and based on this report, they had no option. This is not a one-off. This is not a misunderstanding. This is not.
No, continued
This is
repetitive predatory behavior.
Absolutely, and this is, and if I can read this one
Yeah,
paragraph.
please.
The facility submitted their internal investigation incident report with the required notification to the department. The facility's internal investigation corroborated multiple reports by residents and staff of inappropriate sexual behavior, sexual harassment, abuse, bullying, and intimidation by respondent, who is Chaz, including but not limited to. I'm not going to read them all. It really makes me ill. One was gave him the option to perform sexual acts or get kicked out of the program. What's the guy to do? And he reported it.
He risked everything.
Right.
And
And
it takes a lot to stand up. Like, Cindy's speaking up right now, and she, she's not, super rich and wealthy with all these connections by any means, but she has resources at her disposal. She's stepping up, and that's still hard for her. Imagine being this person with nothing, nobody. They've been fighting, asking for help, and finally they decided they were not going to give in to their addiction because their addiction didn't define them. And then in their most vulnerable hour, this person whose job, the same job as he holds here to protect and defend this community, was to protect, defend, and counsel this patient. And I mean, some of the things he did here, I mean, really are beyond reproach. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised after this video releases on either of our channels if law enforcement is not going to take interest in this and start investigating.
yeah, I don't know if there's anything in here that of interest to law enforcement, but I'll tell you this: Townsend is a small town. We have, give or take, 9,000 residents, and Chaz has been here. I don't know how many. He's only been here maybe less than 20 years, I think. But he's built a lot of relationships in the town, and he's been on boards. I know that just the little I've provided right now is probably sending shockwaves, and I think people probably have a hard time believing just the little bit that I've said. Oh, Cindy's making this up, and I'm not, and it's not a little thing. And I feel I'm sick to my stomach, and part of me just doesn't even want to do this, but the part of me that is about transparency, this is an important issue of public interest. The people of this town and anywhere need to know about this. This is so important for the public knowledge, to know who we're dealing with. That this has everything to do with his position in town, because this is about power and control. There's much more here, and he's basically, to put it briefly, Chaz Sexton-Diranian is a sexual predator. There are multiple reports of just over a 6-month period, and he only worked there for less than 2 years. The amount of stuff that he did in such a short period of time is mind-boggling.
I mean, he certainly was. You'll never find him at town hall, but he certainly made plenty of time to make sure he was able to do this.
And I have to say, both Chaz and I are openly gay, and this hurts me in that area of my life as well, because this makes people who believe that gay people are a bunch of sexual predators, and it's not true. This has nothing, absolutely nothing, to do with his sexual orientation. The fact that he's a gay man has absolutely nothing to do with
I think if he was
gay.
Straight, he'd have been doing it to women.
Absolutely. Or anybody. Or even straight men. We can go into what sexual predatory behavior is, but, straight men, the guys that go after kids go after little boys, but they're straight. It has nothing to do with anybody's sexual orientation in either direction. This is sexual predatory behavior. This is awful, and I can't.
I mean, this type of behavior is absent.
Myself.
It's absent creed. It's absent religion. It's absent sexual orientation.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's I'm not going to read through all of them, but I'm going to read through a couple because I think it's important about. It's bad enough on its face, and we discussed this beforehand, to not dramatize a bit of this because there's victims involved. But it's bad on his face that he's doing this to someone in his professional capacity, in his day job. He intermingles his day job and his city job quite a bit. I mean, one of them, it says, resident A reported that respondent, so that's Duranian. So I'll just say Chaz. Resident A reported that Chaz transported him in Chaz's personal vehicle to City Hall to help with program expansion due to resident A having an engineering degree. The same resident indicated that Chaz gave him the option to perform sexual acts of touching or get kicked off the program. So he realizes the person that is Chaz is this person's counselor, right? Now Chaz is saying to him, oh, you got an engineering degree? Let me exploit that. Let me bring you down to City Hall. You're going to help with this program. And if you don't perform certain acts, you're going to get kicked out of the program. Staff reported that they observed resident A's behavior change after the trip to City Hall with respondent. A case manager reported that Chaz stated that, I need you to help me find dirt on resident A to get him out of here. So now Chaz is going after resident B and trying to set resident B up to go after resident A, because resident B might just turn up to be the same as resident A. So now this is where he starts.
That was staff. He went to his staff, the people that worked for him.
Yeah.
So he coerced his staff for fear of their job to now use more power and control
To try and cover it up.
to get rid of resident A. And resident A, clearly he's one of the reporters. He may be the first resident. And I mean, nothing against people that aren't educated, that don't have college degrees, but he picked on the wrong guy. I mean, I see this as he has an engineering degree, so he's worked in some professional capacity. He knows what's right and wrong.
Because that's the thing. With
He
addiction,
knows these things aren't supposed to happen in the workplace or in healthcare, and he was.
Well, addiction
not
doesn't
gonna play.
discriminate, Cindy, right? Like,
No.
it can discriminate a guy who has no college education. It can
Right.
discriminate against a big time, if he was a big time engineer. So, but that's, I think, a big part of figuring out who Chaz is as a person, because he doesn't see what's behind the eyes. He only sees what he can do, how he can manipulate, and how he can self-serve his own purpose. According to resident B, upon learning the location of resident B's bed in an adjacent sober house, Chaz stated, "Good, now I can snuggle up with you." I'm not going to read the next one. I think the victim was brave to explain what happened, but it's bad. We'll skip over that one. Staff reported being uncomfortable with Chaz putting his arm around them and rubbing their arm. Multiple staff. Now, it's important to note that part. Cindy kind of drove this home for me. It's not just resident. There's a lot of part, it's staff and resident. So the staff is observing this behavior and they're speaking out. So this isn't just like, because I know there's going to be people out there, they're going to say, oh, listen, this is just a junkie and they're trying to, come up on the system.
Yep.
This is multiple staff. And then after all this, the state was the deciding factor and they were the one that said, you did this. So staff reported being uncomfortable with Chaz putting his arm around that. Multiple staff and residents reported that Chaz referred to them as sexy and handsome, and staff and residents reported feeling uncomfortable. Staff reported that Chaz made comments indicating he needed assistance going to the bathroom. Staff indicated this made them feel weird and disgusting. Now, his sexuality has nothing to do with this. I think any random person that you work with, like, we just met each other, we're working together in a capacity. If I came in here and I said, Cindy, I need some help going to the bathroom, after you beat me to within an inch of my life, you're probably going to be like, that was weird and disgusting.
Yeah, I never speak to you again.
But
like the plague.
It doesn't make it. And here's another thing I want to point out for this type of behavior. He's real open in doing this. He's not hiding it. That means,
He
in
feels
my
safe.
estimate, exactly.
He feels like he can get away with it and nobody can stop him.
He can do whatever he wants. Now, if this is what he's doing, when we'll say there's no government oversight. There was, people. If this is what he's doing where, to him, there's no government oversight, imagine what he's doing in his public capacity. I mean, the words that they used is that and this is not my words, people. This is the words of the government. that he's
Immediate threat to the
Immediate-
public health, safety, and welfare.
yeah, that's the type of guy that we're.
It says that repeatedly through this document.
It's like they wanted to remind you as you kept reading. Like chapter 1 ended, by the way, this guy's a huge piece of shit. Here's chapter 2, by the way, interim, he's still a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And this is, listen, I want this guy to really pay for his behavior in the court of public opinion, hopefully the court of law. And I'm withholding, this is bad enough, I'm withholding certain information for 2 reasons. Number 1, I don't know what access Chaz has to these people. I don't want him to go after these people again. Number 2, it's so bad that I can't repeat it. So
He has a copy of it. It's a public record, and I'm confident. In fact, his name and address they sent this to him. He has this. He knows exactly. In fact, I got this on Wednesday, and I was just tormented. When I read it, and it turned out to be the worst case scenario that I knew could be. When people get their license revoked, this could be one of the things. I was hoping that at the end of the day, that when I did get the public record, that it was going to be that he might have had a brief suspension because
he showed up to work drunk or.
Well, you could lose your license for that. But if you continuing education is a big deal in the healthcare licensing, and if every time you renew your license, you sign under the penalties of perjury, one of those statements that you did your continuing education, and sometimes they audit you and you have to send them in. Sometimes I don't know what LADC does, but and sometimes they'll audit you and they catch you and they suspend licenses because you lied, and they will suspend. And my first fear was, I'm going to feel embarrassed about doing this whole thing because he probably got suspended for continuing education violation. I thought that would be
Some remedial.
The minor thing. It was going to be something stupid like that. So when I got this, I was sick to my stomach. I was pacing. I don't think I slept that night. But when I calmed down enough, I said, what am I going to do? I said, I have to release this information. I cannot keep this private. And I sent Chaz an email. And I said it very politely. And I said, because I've known him for a long time. We don't see eye to eye most of the time. But I said, okay, Chaz, I have this. And he knows my YouTube, and he's called me on my videos, deplorable and disgusting, because I'm doing these videos.
You're deplorable and disgusting.
I'm deplorable, yes. That is on, I think it's June 14th.
He presents a public safety risk.
I'm deplorable and disgusting because I'm doing my videos. Hello?
So we see this all the time. So you reporting on his deplorable and disgusting actions is deplorable and disgusting.
Yes.
Him committing the acts that are now causing you to record, all good.
Right. But I gave him, I wrote a very polite email, and I let him know that I had this report, which he would know what I said. I have the revocation of your license, and I'm going to release it. And I said a couple times that it's a public record. And I said, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm not demanding that you do anything. I'm just letting you know. I'm giving you, I can't remember all my words, but I said it very nicely that to get in front of it. I said, I'm giving you the option to get in front of this. So that if you wanted to report it yourself or whatever, before I release this, because I know, it hasn't been released yet as we're doing this, that once the phones are going to be ringing around town, and I know it's going to be tough on him, and I thought it was only fair that I let him know this is coming before it does.
Did he respond to you?
No, yes, I didn't expect him to. I've sent him emails over
He's that
stuff.
high up on his perch.
He hasn't answered, yeah. I mean, I don't blame him. I don't know that I would if I were in his position either. Like, oh, great.
Well, I don't think he's using reasoning. I think he's saying, because he just thinks that he's untouchable and it'll all go away.
He's probably thinking about how he can sue me.
Listen, I'll tell you one thing. I have one of the best litigations attorneys.
I'm not worried. This is a public record, and I haven't said anything that's
Well, he wasn't worried
slanderous.
here.
I haven't even said half of what's in this
Well, the
document.
best defense to defamation is the truth.
There it is.
And this is, I mean, look at this. Staff reported observing respondent sitting too close to a resident on the couch and that the resident appeared uncomfortable. We want to talk about the staff, right? Staff reported that Chaz indicated that he could see their emails and chastised staff for speaking to the facilities director of residential services and chief operating officer about his behavior. So now the staff is seeing what Chaz is doing. They're watching the behavior continue and worsen, and now they're speaking up. And Chaz is telling them, I can read all your emails, and if you tell anybody how I've been abusing these poor people, then I'm coming after you.
Right. And I'd like to bring attention, or the viewers in Townsend in particular, attention to this. Chaz is the chair of the Board of Selectmen. He's also, which a lot of people are aware of, he's the liaison to the IT stuff. He's really, I'll give him credit, he's really been very instrumental in improving our IT posture, making it more secure and getting a good contract with a company that's providing all kinds of services and making it, giving us more stuff to run the town on the IT side. And he's always talking about the email, and he's working with this company, and he's the on-site kind of guy who does some of the stuff, because they're a company that's somewhere else and they do most of their work off-site. We don't have an on-site, but it's
Right.
him. So I'm concerned for the welfare of the employees of this town. That is he going?
Can he surveil them?
Is he going into the emails, everybody's emails, to see what they're saying about him or about anybody else? I mean,
Just the
I
fact
don't
that
know.
we've been talking about this.
I'm worried that employees can't feel safe with just the business that they're transacting on the town email. I know that people aren't doing a lot of personal stuff anymore these days. They understand that it's official business on these sites, but citizens contact town officials and they say all kinds of things. But he's seeing emails that these people don't know that Chaz is looking at it. And I would suspect strongly that that's exactly what he's doing here. So I saw this one and I'm like, oh, this isn't good either. That our townspeople who are contacting other town officials thinking that, oh, only the town clerk got this, or only the assessor got that, or, I contacted the building inspector about something, or it concerns
Very real
This
concerns.
concerns me,
Very real
yeah.
concerns. And there's going to be just two more things I'm reading. I'm going to be removing the name of one of these places in order to protect the
I
identity
don't want the place.
but, and again, I had decided when I came here that I was not going to read this one. And then I'm looking to myself and I'm reading the first couple lines over and over. Again, now what he's doing in his job outside of the town, he's now bringing in to town business. Staff reported that when they asked Chaz if they should give Staff reported that when they asked Chaz if they should give the fire department a tour of the facility during an upcoming visit, Chaz's response was, "No, I'll do it, and we'll start in the boiler room, where I keep my Vaseline." Staff perceived this comment as sexually inappropriate. On October 2023, multiple staff confirmed that Chaz ordered them to strip search a client due to a suspicion of possession of drugs. Staff reported not thinking the strip search was right, but failed to report the incident due to fear of retaliation. The facility reported that based on the significant number of corroborated allegations and inappropriate sexual behavior, and after reviewing the response given by Chaz, the decision was made to terminate Chaz as program director of that facility. On March 13th, 2024, following the review of the facility's required notification and their internal investigation, DPH BSAS opened a complaint investigation into Chaz. The complaint investigation is currently in process. And now, what they're going to do here, and I'm not going to harp it home, they're going to kind of rehash everything that this guy's done. He's done this, he's done that, he's done that. And then we skip forward, okay, to number 8. As a LADC2, Chaz is authorized to practice alcohol and drug counseling under clinical supervision. An individual licensed to practice as an LADC2 holds an important place of public trust in his or her community. Such individuals provide essential services to clients living with substance use disorder and are often vulnerable. Chaz agreed to abide by the National Association for Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Counselors Code of Conduct and Ethics in his initial application number and his subsequent renewal applications according to the Records Department. Chaz engaged in sexually inappropriate conduct, abuse, and sexual harassment and intimidation towards residents and staff, failed to maintain the boundaries of the counseling relationship, and violated ethical standards. These aforementioned violations described herein are a serious violation of the public trust, Massachusetts laws and regulations, and as such constitute grounds for immediate summary suspension and revocation of the respondent's license. And I would like you to read this part because I think it speaks volumes and no one at home would know what he did or to whom he did it to. Just part A right there, that big part that we found.
That Chaz's actions, including sexual and physical boundary violations, sexual harassment of both residents and staff, violate various ethical and boundary violations and constitute, again, an immediate and serious threat to the public health, safety, and welfare.
And then they go on to say again, the violations of Chaz described herein are a serious violation of the public trust, Massachusetts laws and regulations, and as such constitute grounds of summary suspension and intended revocation of his license. This is the Bureau of Substance and Addiction Services. His license number was 14340. I think, and this is hard for me, right? Because I lived it, I was on the street, and I remember people not even seeing me. Like I explained it as like kind of being like a fire hydrant. People could tell I was there, but they immediately looked right past me. I always thought that I was less than. I always thought that I was inhuman. I always thought that I was unworthy. And, it didn't matter if people wanted to punish me or talk down to me because no one could do as good of a job as beating up myself as I could. And I got to a point where I had very little internally and I asked for help. And if someone took advantage of me, like Chaz took advantage of these men, I would not be where I am today. There are so many problems with these long-term residential treatment facilities, sober houses. It's a huge money market. So people go in and they give the licenses away real easily, and people go into these places expecting that this will be their salvation. And little do they know, as far as their humanity and their dignity goes, it's more of an execution. And none of this would have come to light if not for this woman, who stands nothing to gain but transparency and for other people to come out of the shadows. Like, I applaud everyone who's given me information over the year, because it's hard, you don't want to just come out and say this is what happened to me, because there's a real fear that there's retaliation against you. And we're talking about a man whose number one offense and defense is retaliation. Like, hey, I'm doing this to you, and just so you know, you can't say anything about it. There will be retaliation. And for him to call her despicable, to me, is an affront against what is good about this town. I didn't decide to run for office as some political stunt because it doesn't pay me, right? It takes time away from my day job, which I'm always traveling. There was no gain for me, but I saw the public had concern. And I will tell you, this is the most concerning thing I think I've seen in any of the work that I have done. I'm having to restart
Me too.
here.
This is the worst thing I've seen since I've lived in Townsend. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I can complain about, but a lot of it is nothing. This is shocking, and it turns my stomach, and I'm just.
Now you're watching.
I'm
this.
not proud. I mean, I'm proud for the transparency, but I'm sickened that I have to release this information. This makes me sick that I'm releasing it because of what it is. And
Yeah,
I know what it's gonna do. I don't know exactly what it's gonna do, but I know that it's not gonna play well in town. I'm afraid of what is gonna happen once this video is done.
I mean, that
It
interests me.
scares me.
It scares me too, but I think it interests
And yes,
me.
I'm afraid of retaliation as well, but I'm afraid for the people of Townsend. And
I think they're going
What
to
is
start
gonna
making
do?
excuses for him. Not everyone.
oh,
I
some
think
people
a lot
will.
of people.
Some people will. They'll think, oh, sorry.
No, you're okay.
Think it's minimal. Cindy's exaggerating. She's making this up.
How about this?
No,
You think that I'm exaggerating? Here's what I will do. I'll have to redact the name of one of these houses. I'll have to redact some of Chaz's personal information, like where he lives and his cell phone number, even though I think if you asked him how tall he was and he said 6 foot, you'd say they don't stack shit that high. I'll still do that anyways. And then I will send you. Is that all right with you? If I redact all the
Yeah, I mean, and this is a public record. I mean, I've told people in town, I'm not sharing this document. If you want it, you can get it yourself. Because I think it's got too much just things that will make other people sick. But if anybody out there that wants it, it's easy enough to get, although it could take you 10 days. They sat on the whole 10 days.
I'm sure they did. They probably sent right down to the wire.
But they were very nice, but Department of Public Health, Massachusetts, you can find it on the state website, really easy. And then just that you want Charles Sexton-Diranian's disciplinary record on his license, and they'll send you your own copy.
Well, and you can't fake this.
Right, yeah,
this is,
it's an official document, you know, and I know better than to make something up like
I'm gonna-
this. This could put me in a bad light if I were making this up, for sure.
I'm gonna cover up his. Yeah, guys, this is all the stuff, and you know, this is. I want to turn to a page where it doesn't have, because I feel absolutely awful.
I think almost every page has something that.
Here we go. I can fold the paper as like this. So this is. I mean, this is all from the paperwork. And tell the folks your YouTube channel name again.
Okay, it's real. What is it? I always forget it.
Isn't it Deal?
It's Real Deal. Real Deal. Real as in
R-E-E-L.
movie real. R-E-E-L. Deal. D-E-A-L. Around town. And you can put around towns. I mean, it'll pop up if you putting towns in.
Well, they're going to find it, because what you can do is
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
we're
literally
gonna
go
put
into
up-
the description of this video,
Right.
click on
It's
it.
gonna-
The pinned
Yeah.
comment of this video, click on it. If you haven't already, go to the Real Deal Around Town. That's R-E-E-L, Real Deal Around Town. Subscribe.
Subscribe, please.
And also comment. Let her know that I sent you. What do you got?
I'm going to show them right there.
Oh, you have my site up. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. It's not.
I'm going to...
There we go.
Yeah.
Hit subscribe. And then hit the notification bell right there. It'll say all. There you go.
So Chaz went to thinking that you were just an insignificant thorn on his side.
I was a jerk.
And right now, Chaz, I want to let you know
I'm
something.
sure he has worse names for me now.
Chaz, when you abdicate your position, because I don't care how narcissistic and full of yourself you are, the honesty of this community is your impending downfall. When you abdicate that position, I promise you that someone else who is not a danger to the community, that is not a public threat to the community, will step in that position. They will do their very best to do what they can for their small town. And I'll tell you one thing, it's all because of this woman, Chaz. I've met you before. I wasn't impressed. And I don't know how you got such a big ego in that gassed out brain of yours, because I think most people that meet you aren't impressed. You're not imposing. You're not charismatic. All you are, Chaz, is a downright, outright, disgusting, despicable, deplorable predator on the very most vulnerable of our society that you will never again be able to exploit. I gotta tell you, I thank God this woman isn't on my bad side, because, you know, this is not the kind of person that, and you know, rightfully so, because she was driven to this position. She did what she could. She got into office. She tried to make the changes. She faced so much resistance that she said, I'll do it as a citizen. She continues to push through. I mean, they're trying to charge us for trash. Now, whatever they do, she's like, I'm going to be an advocate for this community. And you know what? He never took you seriously. But you know what? He's watching every second of this video. And right now, when he's looking at you, he has never taken you more serious. I thank you for what you did, not just because it's for this community, because I've only been here a little over a year, but as somebody who was in the shoes of these young men, who had no one else to turn to. I was in a sober house. I was on parole, and if that sober house gave me a bad word, my freedom's gone. He will never be able to do that to somebody again, thanks to you. And for me as a person, I thank you. And is there anything you'd like to say directly to Chaz?
Chaz, I believe it or not, with all of this, I'm truly sorry of what you're going through from this moment forward. That I know it's going to be hard to cope with this. And I'm hoping that you make the right decisions. I'm not telling you what to do. I think I'm leaving it to the community, because me starting up doing this YouTube stuff and exposing you and what's going on in town is in the best interest of the community. And it's not up to me to tell you what to do or to make demands. I think the community will tell you, and I'm leaving it up to them, and I hope everybody makes the right decision.
What I think everyone should do, of their own accord, I know I will be using my time at every public meeting they have, reading excerpts of this whole thing until eventually he steps down or we get to the end of it. And listen, you redress your government. Now, I will say that Cindy and I have spoken a great deal. And, you know, I have faith in the system, because the system is very divided. It's not like some are on one side, some are on the other, some are kind of down the middle. In this community, you are on side A or side B, and you are ardent without being in between. This does not fall to the responsibility of the town clerk's office. This does not fall to the responsibility to the Department of Public Health here in Townsend. This happened very much outside the jurisdiction of Townsend. So you're learning about this at the same time that all the public employees are learning about this. He did a real good job at covering his tracks. To Cindy's credit, not good enough. So if you do decide in your infinite wisdom to redress one of the components of your First Amendment, to petition the government for a redress of your grievances, the select board is who you should be taking umbrage with. That's who I would take umbrage with, because now they know about it. Now they're on notice. I'm fairly certain they knew about it before, because he's good friends with Joe, the other select board member. I can't say for certain, but it's them who are going to look at this and say, hey, listen, you've heard enough people, it's time for you to go. Or they keep silent, they say nothing, and just pretend like it never happened. Resident A, Resident B, Resident C, staff members, Sober House. They don't have the ability to pretend that this didn't happen. They don't have the ability to pretend that this scumbag didn't do the multitude of things that he did, all the way up until the point that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts itself has said that he's a danger to the public health. He is a danger to people. He's an immediate and serious threat to the safety and welfare of this community, your community, and hey, if he finds another job, maybe in a community near you.
I hope he doesn't enter into the same type of work where he has access to more victims. Predators go where the victims are.
And you know what? A guy like this, I don't know if he's beyond, see, you're a wonderful person. You said, I'm sorry you're going through this. I hope you get through it. You're a way better person than he pretends to be. And I mean that because he wants you to think he's this great guy. But he's the type of person that I don't think can learn from his lessons. I think he's the type of person that he could use this opportunity to learn from his lessons and better himself. Or
I'm the enemy now.
You're the enemy, and now he can just learn from his
fault.
opportunity to make sure next time he's better at not getting caught. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you, Cindy, for joining us and for your bravery
Thank you for having me.
here today. This is your government. And Townsend, that's who you voted for. We'll catch you on the next one. And that's the reason I stopped you today. If you or anyone you love has fallen victim to Selectman of Townsend, Chaz Sexton-Diranian, please speak up. He targeted your vulnerability at your weakest moment when you sought help and used the power of his position to violate you, silence you, and take away your rights as well as your dignity. It takes an incredible amount of courage to speak up, but it's those voices that echo from the shadows that ring loud for the entire world to hear. Sober houses and residential treatment centers have become a cash cow, and they've become so prevalent that I'm sure one has opened out near you. And people are referred to these programs, and some seek these programs voluntarily when they're at their very lowest in order to beat their addiction. In fact, I was one of those people. I went to a sober house when I needed to get clean, when I was at my most vulnerable. Admitting that you need help is terrifying in itself, but the people you seek help from, taking advantage of you and abusing you, is even more despicable. I ran for select board here in Townsend so I could try and make some change. But change comes from we the people, and from you the voters. And I know most of you may not have known what he was up to. Now you do. And we need to credit every one of those voices that rang from the shadows, to let them know that they're not alone. We hear them, we see them, and we got their back. Check out Real Deal Around Town. Her channel link is in the description of this video. Make sure you let her know AFA sent you, and also thank her for bringing these tragedies from the dark all the way into the light for everyone to see. And that's the reason I stopped you today.